Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zakir Jacob. There was widespread violence today in the state of Kerala by and large by PFI activists a day after there was large-scale arrest of its leaders. Over 100 of PFI activists were rounded up yesterday in a multi-state operation by the NIA as well as local police. But today, in response to that, from Kannur and Kasaragod in the north of Kerala to Thiruvananthapuram in the south, public transport was targeted, schools and colleges were shut, and business establishments and shops were attacked. And this is despite an explicit Kerala High Court order banning hartals and flash strikes. In fact, that order goes on to say whoever calls for the hartal without giving a 7-day advance notice period will have to pay for all the damages caused. Why should anyone resort to violence to make a political point? And why should there be any tolerance for anybody who takes the law into their own hands, no matter what their grievance may be?
Destruction, vandalism, anarchy. A day after the biggest crackdown on Popular Front of India, its members went on a rampage in Kerala and Tamil Nadu. The PFI had called a bandh to protest against the midnight raids and arrest of its key leaders by central agencies. But PFI members used their hartal call as an excuse to go on a vandalism spree. State-owned buses and auto rickshaws were pelted with stones.
Inside this bus, we can see that there are fragments of glass that is there all over. There are big stones that are inside this. So this is a condition in most of the vehicles where buses have been damaged like this.
Tires were burnt and even private vehicles were not spared.
That the hartal supporters, they took away the key and blocked the road. Now the police have gave a direct connection and now they have started this truck. So the technique was to just to block the truck and take away the key.
PFI workers were even caught on camera hurling petrol bombs at the offices of the RSS and the BJP. In some places, PFI workers tried to forcibly shut shops that were open despite their hartal call, but locals gave it back to them. The protest turned violent. The Kerala High Court initiated suo motu cognizance against PFI leaders for calling flash hartal despite it being banned by the court earlier.
So far in all across state, more than 400 persons have been put under preventive arrest and more than 500 persons have been arrested.
From being a threat to national security to vandalizing public property, is it time to ban the PFI once and for all?
All right, how does it justify taking the law into one's own hands, no matter what your grievance may be? Let me go across to our full panel. Joining us on Brass Tacks tonight, Sushant Sareen is Senior Fellow at the Observer Research Foundation. Yasmin Farooqi is General Secretary of the SDPI. Yashwardhan Azad, former IPS officer. Majid Haidari, Senior Journalist, joining us. And Amina Begum Ansari is a political analyst. Let me start with Sushant Sareen. So today in the state of Kerala, private and public transport was targeted. Hundreds of passengers were left stranded in railway stations as well as on roads. Schools were completely shut down and so were colleges. Business establishments and shops were targeted, were pelted with stones. The point is, who is going to pay for all this public inconvenience that's been caused because one organization and its leaders have been arrested or rounded up?
Zaka, as far as I am aware, the law is very clear that the person who causes this kind of dislocation and disruption and destruction is to pay for the damages. I think the Supreme Court has pronounced on that. And in some of the states, that is actually being implemented as well. So I think that's the simple answer to your question. But I think the larger question is that the kind of street violence we saw today throughout Kerala, I think tells you a lot about the kind of street power that a radical organization like the PFI wields, and the kind of terror it can instill in the people by demonstrating its street power. So, in a manner of speaking, their actions today, not just in Kerala but in other states as well, actually validates the action which has been taken against them yesterday by
Okay.
their arrests and what we are hearing about the impending ban on the organization. So I think that much is very clear.
Let me ask Yasmin Farooqi, as General Secretary of the SDPI, there is an explicit 2019 Kerala High Court order which had banned flash hartals. In fact, that order says that anyone who wants to give a hartal or a flash strike has to give 7-day notice to the general public. Those 7 days will enable the citizens who are opposed to this call for hartal or strike to approach the court. And also, the court has said that anybody who does not adhere to this 7-day notice, their hartals or protests will be deemed illegal, and the person/party calling for the hartal would be liable for any damage caused to citizen and government property pursuant to the call for hartal/general strike. Majid Haidari, you want to take that?
Well, see, Zaga Saab, firstly, violence cannot be defended or supported by for law, logic, or wisdom. But then law and logic needs to be applied on how the PFI is being victimized at the moment. I'll quote two facts and very recent facts. A Hindu man proposes Muslim Amir Khan's daughter, and then social media and our media calls it, what a heartwarming video, what a heartwarming moment. But if a Muslim man marries a Hindu woman, it becomes love jihad. When BJP pledges for Hindu Rashtra, it's being welcomed. But when this outfit like PFI calls about what is allegedly being spoken about them, that they said about Islamic Caliphate, we take it as an act of terror. How come two yardsticks in one country? And then who are the agencies who are going for the crackdown on these parts
But Majid Haidari Saab, no. Can I ask you one simple question? Are you seriously telling me that in 21st century India, we should give a long rope or brook those people who are saying that we should go back to a 6th century, 7th century caliphate?
No, when we talk of Hindu Rashtra and Ram Rajya, it goes even back then the time of 6th century. It goes thousands of years ago. So either we stop it at both, we condemn both the things that no, in a secular country, in a secular constitution, in secular valued nation, we cannot have Hindu Rashtra idea or Muslim Caliphate or the Khalistan.
Okay,
but
because I've been hearing this for a couple of days now. There is a certain equivalence that's being drawn. What about Yati Narsingh Anand? You're not going after him. What about the fellows who lynch in the name of the cow?
No, BJP lawmakers.
I'm just curious to know. I want to ask Yashwardhan Azad. Is that, given the PFI and the action that we've seen against the PFI, and I'm only quoting stuff that's there in the public domain, they are wanted for as many as 27 cases in the state of Kerala, about 33 cases in the state of Karnataka. There are dozens of cases in the state of Uttar Pradesh during the anti-CAA riots and so on. Is it comparable? Is it equivalent that people like Majid Haidari, and I've heard this from a number of people over the last couple of days, that if you are going after PFI, what about Yati Narsingh Anand? Why aren't you going after the fellows who are calling for Hindu Rashtra, so on and so forth? Is it comparable or is it a false equivalence?
Absolutely, it's a false equivalence. There is no comparison between the two because PFI has been a subversive organization. And mind you, in 2012, the Kerala government itself, and I think it was a Congress government,
Correct,
when it went to the High Court and talked about the nefarious activities of the PFI. Now, PFI definitely has two parts. One is the political part, which is involved in almost every agitation in the country. And I'll say that even that is a democratic right which is given to them. So whether they are involved in CA or NRC or Ejab Rao or whatever, that's fine. That's fine with me. But the question is, here we are talking about three important things. One is terror funding, and the funding which is coming through Hawala route. Second is the radicalization. And third are the various camps which are taking place and the seizure of subversive literature and the seizure of guns. It is well known that in 2010, the violence which was unleashed by the PFI against that Christian lecturer. I think his name was Joseph.
Yeah.
And they have always been in murderous battles with the RSS cadres and also with the Christians over there. That is fine. That's an individual thing. Now, I'm not talking about ban here, because ban means that you have to actually come on record with the kind of terror funding which has been indulged by the PFI. Right. Number two, as far as the action against the activists are there, it is clear that they have been involved in various activities. And that is why I think it is most important now. NIA again is being helmed by a very competent officer, Dinkar Gupta, who has been in the IB, who's been Punjab DG. Therefore, this raid which has taken place across the states have been with the hard evidence which they have had over the years. And that's why after this, once you thread out all the pieces, I would say ban, be very careful. But as far as action is concerned against the activists, just go for it.
I just want to read out something that Yashwardhan Azad referenced to, which was back in 2012. Not a BJP government, not a communist government, a Congress government had told the High Court of Kerala that PFI is nothing but a resurrection of the banned outfit Students Islamic Movement of India in another form. This was 10 years ago. I want to ask Amna Begum Ansari, the greatest disservice that the PFI does is to moderate Muslims. And I believe, and I firmly believe, that a large majority, an overwhelming majority of Indian Muslims are moderate. But what happens with organizations like the PFI is that the majority of moderate Muslims are left holding the can for the extremist actions of a few.
Hello.
Yes, Amna.
Yes, in totally agreement, Anand, that PFI is not doing disservice only to nation, Indian nation. They are doing the disservice to entire Muslim community. And you can hear a lot of moderate voices condemning them as well. In fact, I have shared a press release of Indian Mahats community. They represent 85% of Pashmanda Muslim, and they have clearly stated that we are welcoming this step of the government to ban them. Now the gentleman was talking about the PFI and he was bringing a false equivalence of Hindu Rashtra in it.
Yep.
I want to tell that person ki if you need to go and check their activities from the 2010, in the year 2010, an underworld criminal Madhur Yusuf was extradited from Saudi Arabia on the many charges against him, some including the murder of prominent BJP leader. He was the PFI member. On 4th July 2010, a professor in Kerala, T.T. Joseph, had his hand cut off by the same PFI goon, only because there was some accusation against of him putting some question which was accused of blasphemy.
Okay.
And also in 2012, Kerala government informed the High Court of Kerala that there is 27 homicides cases against the PFI. In 2010, Kerala police seized a lot of CDs which belongs to Taliban type of terror module that was also belonged to the PFI. On 28 April 2013, Kannur DSP Sukuman briefed the media on the successful raid against. And these all cases and incident I am talking about is the before Modi government came into the power. Right, so they cannot bring this false equivalency by every time there is any problem in the Muslim community or extremism in Muslim community, they will bring this false equivalency of BJP being into the government. Although the same BJP has taken action on the Narsimhanand type of people, but they won't bring that.
Let me ask Yasmin Farooqi. Yasmin ji, ये बताइए, बसों को तोड़ना, दुकानदारों को टारगेट करना, लोगों के ऊपर पथराव करना, पत्थर फेंकना, क्या ये सब है लोकतंत्र? आपका जो भी ग्रीवेंस हो, आपके लोगों को कल अरेस्ट किया गया, उनको दिल्ली लेके आए हैं, ये सब ठीक है, इसको आप कोर्ट में चैलेंज कर सकते हैं, लेकिन इस तरफ का जो लार्ज स्केल वायलेंस हमने देखा केरल में और तमिलनाडु में, ये तो लोकतंत्र नहीं है।
जी बिल्कुल आप सही फरमा रहे हैं। मैं जवाब दे दूं, पूरा जवाब सुन लीजिएगा, बीच में नहीं टोकिएगा। 100% बिल्कुल आप सही कह रहे हैं, ये लोकतंत्र नहीं है। प्रॉब्लम ये है कि हमारे यहाँ लोकतंत्र बचा है क्या? आप क्या पूरे 75 साल में कोई ऐसी नजीर देंगे कि इतनी बड़ी रेड पड़ी हो और उसके बाद इतने सारे बूढ़े जवान, उस एज के लोग भी मैंने देखे जाते हुए जिन पे से के चला भी नहीं जा रहा था, और आप अरेस्ट करके उनको लेके जा रहे हो विदाउट किसी रीजन। आप जवाब नहीं दे रहे हो। आप बीच में मत बोलिएगा, मैं पता है कि आप क्या जवाब देंगे मुझे, लेकिन आपको मैं एक शायद इन्फॉर्मेशन दे दूं कि 1 साल पहले इसी तरह की रेट्स पहले भी पड़ चुकी हैं, लेकिन उसका कोई आंसर नहीं आया, उसके कोई प्रूफ नहीं मिले, ना कोई साबित किया। अभी मैम कह रही थी, मैं बड़े मतलब उनकी इज्जत करके और बड़े उससे कह रही हूँ कि आप अगर ये बात कह रही हैं तो अगर कोई एक पीएफआई का आदमी, कोई एक कैडर गलत निकलता है तो पूरा, ये तो आप नहीं कह सकते ना कि अगर एक घर में एक बच्चा गलत निकल गया तो पूरा घर खराब हो गया या पूरे घर वाले खराब हो गए या उन घर वालों ने जान करके उस बच्चे को खराब किया है। थोड़ा सा तवज्जो से सुनिए। अभी इस वक्त जितने भी प्रॉब्लम्स आए हैं साउथ में, चाहे कोविड का मामला हो, पीएफआई वाले थे अकेले। मैंने अभी बहुत डिटेल से क्योंकि बात करनी थी तो मैंने भी सोचा कि इनके बारे में मुझे मालूमात करनी चाहिए। जितने भी सैलाब आया चेन्नई में या कहीं पे भी, सिर्फ और सिर्फ पीएफआई वाले लोग थे जो कि लोगों की जा के मदद कर रहे थे, खाने बांट रहे थे। कोविड में लोग जो कि बेटा बाप को और बाप बेटे को कंधा देने को तैयार नहीं था, जलाने को तैयार नहीं था। मैंने देखा है कि पीएफआई वाले वो सारे काम कर रहे थे।
नहीं यास्मीन जी, ये सब बात ठीक है, मैं मना नहीं कर रहा हूँ, लेकिन ये नहीं, लेकिन एक बात बताइए, क्या मतलब आपके लोगों को नहीं आपके लोगों को गिरफ्तार कर दिया तो फिर आप पत्थर फेंकेंगे? तो फिर ऐसे अगर लोग करने शुरू कर देंगे तो यहाँ पे राजनीतिक पार्टियां तो रोज पत्थर फेंकने ही, मतलब टाइम तो बचेगा नहीं उनके पास। तो सब लोग सड़क पे आ जाएंगे और पत्थर फेंकेंगे, बसों को जलाएंगे।
सर मेरी बात
आंसर देने दीजिए।
या आमना I'll come to you, या
मेरी बात पूरी नहीं होगी तो
जी बोलिए, मैं आप ही से सवाल पूछ रहा हूँ।
हाँ, मैं आपको वही जवाब दे रही हूँ क्योंकि मेरे लोकतंत्र का, मेरे भारत का माहौल यही हो गया है। आप बताइए, अभी वहां पे बिल्कुल अगर जो कोई भी कर रहा है गलत कर रहा है, मैं उसको तायीद नहीं कर रही, आप इसको बिल्कुल मत समझिए कि मैं तायीद कर रही हूँ। लेकिन बंगाल में क्या हुआ, बीजेपी वालों ने दौड़ा के पुलिस वालों को, जो मैंने वीडियोस देखी हैं। आप मुझे एक बात बताइए, आप पीएफआई की इतनी बड़ी हिस्ट्री, मैम मैं बहुत रिगार्ड से कह रही हूँ, मैं बदतमीजी नहीं करती किसी से, बहुत रिगार्ड से आपसे कह रही हूँ, आपने हिस्ट्री सुनाई बिल्कुल होगी, मैं उसको डिनाई नहीं कर रही, लेकिन आप मुझे एक बात बताइए, पूरी गुजरात फाइल तो पढ़ लीजिए, पूरी गुजरात में आग लगी है, आप क्या बात कर रही हैं?
मैं बिल्कुल आपको इसका आंसर दे देती हूँ मैडम।
एक अगर गैर संवैधानिक चीज हो रही है, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि आप भी मतलब कानून को हाथ पे उठाएंगे। ऐसे थोड़ी ना होता है। Amna respond, and then I've got a piece of breaking news coming. Yeah, Amna, yes, Amna respond. एक करके प्लीज एक करके यास्मीन जी सुन लीजिए, पिछले 3-4 मिनट से आप ही बोल रहे हैं, सुन लीजिए प्लीज आमना। या
सुनाइए, बिल्कुल मैं सुन।
जी देखिए, जब पीएफआई वाले गरीब लोगों की मदद करते हैं तो वो इसलिए नहीं होता कि वो गरीब लोगों की मदद करते हैं, वो इसलिए होता है कि वो उस गरीबी को एक्सप्लॉइट करते हैं अपने एक्सट्रीमिज्म को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए।
आप उसको भी उल्टा लेके जा रही हैं मैम, आप सच पढ़िए कि पावर्टी कितनी अजीब बात है।
यास्मीन जी प्लीज, उन्होंने आपके बीच में टोका नहीं है, आप सुन लीजिए प्लीज, उसके बाद आपके पास वापस आ जाऊंगा मैं। उनको रखने दीजिए उनकी बात।
पीएफआई की आइडियोलॉजी क्या है? जब इजिप्ट के अंदर मुस्लिम ब्रदरहुड बैन हुआ था तो ये इंडिया में इजिप्ट के एम्बेसी के सामने जाके प्रदर्शन करते हैं। आप उनकी आइडियोलॉजी देखिए, उनकी आइडियोलॉजी इस्लामिज्म की है। अगर वो अच्छा काम भी करते हैं और वो गरीब मुसलमानों की मदद करते हैं तो वो उसी गरीब मुसलमान को एक्सप्लॉइट करके बाहर भेजते हैं टेररिस्ट बनने के लिए। उनके लिंक पाए गए हैं जहाँ पे वो मुसलमान यूथ को लेके जा रहे हैं और वो उनको बाहर भेज रहे हैं जहाँ वो टेररिस्ट ग्रुप को ज्वाइन कर सके। आप सिर्फ उनका एक अच्छा मुखौटा देख रही है, बट वो कितना खतरनाक है आपको वो समझ नहीं आ रहा। अगर आप
यास्मीन जी ये बताइए, 2017 में एक केस हुआ था जहां 2 पीएफआई के लोगों को एक कोर्ट ने केरल में उनको कन्विक्ट कर दिया क्योंकि उन्होंने 2 लोगों को भेजा तुर्की आईसिस ज्वाइन करने के लिए। क्या ये होता है लोकतंत्र? ये है डेमोक्रेटिक? और आप ये चीज बताइए जो आमना ने पूछी है कि मुस्लिम ब्रदरहुड जो इजिप्ट में है उसका क्या लेना देना है आपसे? वो वहां पे क्या करे ना करे, उससे क्या लेना देना है आपके संगठन और हिंदुस्तानी मुसलमानों को? कोई लेना देना नहीं है। फिर भी आप आके उनके दूतावास के सामने आके प्रोटेस्ट करेंगे? ये क्या मतलब?
अगर फलस्तीन में, अगर कहीं पे भी दुनिया के किसी कोने में किसी भी इंसानियत की बात है भाई, इंसानियत के नाते मानवाधिकार वाले जितने भी हैं, अगर इंसानियत के नाते लंदन, अब आप मेरी बात अगर दुनिया में कहीं पे भी कुछ गलत होता है तो दुनिया के हर कोने में एहतजाज होता है, लंदन में भी होता है, अमेरिका में भी
जो केरल में गलत हुआ उसके खिलाफ भी प्रोटेस्ट करेंगे आप?
तो उसमें कौन सी
आज जो बस तोड़े गए, जो दुकान जलाए गए, वो भी गलत था ना?
मैंने कहा ना आपसे, फर्स्ट आपने मेरी बात सुनी अगर हो तो मैंने यही कहा कि वो कोई भी काम कर रहा है, जो लोग भी कर रहे हैं वो गलत कर रहे हैं। आमना एक बात सुन लीजिए, अभी मैंने सिर्फ ये नहीं कहा कि वो मुसलमानों की मदद करते हैं, मैंने ये कहा है कि जब कोविड में कोई भी मर रहा था वो जलाने भी जा रहे थे और वो दफनाने भी जा रहे थे।
सुशांत वांट्स टू रिस्पॉन्ड। नहीं यास्मीन जी, आप इजिप्ट के बात कर रहे हैं, इंडोनेशिया के बात कर रहे हैं, आजकल आपने न्यूज में भी देखा होगा ईरान में महिलाएं आके प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं हिजाब के खिलाफ। क्या आपके संगठन ने एक शब्द बोला है?
नहीं, मैंने बोला है।
क्या बोला आपने, बताइए?
मैं तो एसडीपीआई से हूँ, मैंने बोला है, हर चैनल पे मैंने बोला है कि उनको उनका हक है। अगर वो जो आपने अगर अरबिक में उसका ट्रांसलेट पढ़ा होगा तो उन्होंने ये बोला है कि हम पे जरूरी जबरदस्ती मत करो, और मैंने हर चैनल पे ये बात बोली है कि बिल्कुल अगर कोई नहीं पहनना चाहता उसे मत जबरदस्ती करो, जो पहनना चाहता है उसको मत।
Sushant, to respond, I'm getting a piece of breaking news after that. Yeah, Sushant.
So Zaka, do you know, if you ask a Pakistani about Hafiz Saeed, they will say that he's the Mother Teresa of Pakistan, because his organization, the Lashkar-e-Taiba, and its welfare wing, the Falah-e Insaniyat Foundation, has been in the forefront of every single natural disaster in Pakistan. Whether it was the earthquake, they were the first responders. Whether it was the floods in 2010, whether it's the floods right now. These are guys who run medical camps, and they run it for all communities. Now, according to this lady's logic, that means that Hafiz Saeed is a really nice dude, and that we should all welcome him with open arms and give in to everything he asks for. Is that the argument? Number one. Number two, she says there is no precedent of such an attack. Well, such an action by the government of India. If there is no precedent, that does not mean that there cannot be a precedent made depending upon the situation. Number three, you know, for this whole equivalence which is being drawn between political violence, and I'm certainly not an advocate of political violence of any kind, but political violence by political parties, by bona fide political parties, distasteful as it is and condemnable as it is, and the fact that you need to take action against anybody who's, you know, breaks the law, all of that aside, to compare that kind of violence by a certified radical extremist organization, I don't see how you can compare the two.
Okay.
So the lady is trying to act very sweet and reasonable, but I think she's being rather disingenuous.
Okay. Amina, Yasmin ji, आप please respond कीजिए, उसके बाद I have to go to this breaking news. I hope Ananya is through on the story.
मैं बोलूं?
हाँ जी, बोलिए.
देखिए, मैं एक बात इनसे कहना चाहती हूँ कि अव्वल तो मैं किसी दुश्मन मुल्क की बात भी करना नहीं चाहती। मेरे लिए वो रहता ही, मतलब मैं उसको एग्जैक्ट ही नहीं करती कि वो कौन सा मुल्क है, मैं उसकी बात ही नहीं करना चाहती उस घटिया मुल्क की। पहली बात तो आप मेरे से इस तरह की बात ना करें मेरे सामने। देन दूसरी बात मैं ये कहना चाहती हूँ कि देखिए, प्लीज मेरी रिक्वेस्ट है, अभी तक प्रूफ नहीं हुआ है, बाद में शर्मिंदा होना पड़ता है फिर बहुत सारी चीजों पे। कितने लोग हैं जो 14 साल जेल बंद करके, और आपने कहा बाइज्जत बरी होके आए, उस वक्त उनकी पूरी जिंदगियां खराब हो गई हैं।
मैं
आप लोगों से मैं उसको मना नहीं कर रही।
इस शो पे कोई ये नहीं कह रहा है कि आपके लोग जो 100 से ऊपर लोग जो गिरफ्तार हुए हैं, कोई नहीं, आपके संगठन के लोग, कोई ये नहीं कह रहा कि ये दोषी है, लेकिन इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि आप पत्थर फेंकेंगे, बसों को तोड़ेंगे, ट्रेनों को जलाएंगे, ये थोड़ी ना बना उसका मतलब।
मैंने ये इस बात
आप अदालत पे जाइए, आपका निर्दोषता आप साबित कीजिए, कोई नहीं रोक रहा आपको।
और 2-2 साल तक और 14-14 साल तक बंद रहिए और आपकी
नहीं, वो कोई नहीं कह रहा, कोई नहीं कह रहा कि मतलब जब जैसे गिरफ्तार हो गए वो दोषी है, नहीं, कोई नहीं कह रहा, लेकिन उसका मतलब ये नहीं है ना, हिंदुस्तान के जेलों में आपको पता है कितने अंडर ट्रायल्स है। नहीं, एक सेकंड, यास्मीन जी, अगर किसी को गिरफ्तार करके जेल में डालने से उनके परिवारजन अगर सड़कों पे आएंगे, आपको पता है कितने लोग अंडर ट्रायल हैं? 5 लाख से ऊपर लोग अंडर ट्रायल हैं हिंदुस्तान की जेलों में। उन सब के परिवारों को आ जाना चाहिए बाहर सड़क पे और बसों को जलाना चाहिए, पत्थर फेंकना चाहिए। यही है लोकतंत्र, यही है कानून व्यवस्था।
आप मेरी बात को सुन नहीं रहे हैं शायद। मैं बार बार ये बात कह रही हूँ कि वो गलत है। आपने वो बात सुनी ही नहीं मेरी, बाकी की बात सुन ली। वो गलत है।
तो अगर गलत है तो आपके संगठन ऐसे हरकतें क्यों कर रही है? यही तो मैं पूछ रहा हूँ।
वही तो मेरे समझ में नहीं आता कि हिंदुस्तान की जनता को क्या हो गया है कि कभी मैंने देखा बंगाल में अभी बीजेपी वाले पुलिस वालों को मार रहे थे। मतलब मैंने जो हालात देखे हैं, अभी आपने अग्निपथ पे देखा,
अच्छा,
बिहार
जो पीएफआई ने आज हिंसा की वो हिंदुस्तान की लोगों की गलती है। ये तो बड़ी अजीब बात कह रही हैं आप। Anyway, let me 1 second, Majid, I'm coming to you. Yashovardhan Azad, I'm coming to you. But let me get a breaking news in, please. 2 minute दीजिए. CNN News 18 has now accessed the charge sheet that's been filed by the police in the hijab matter in Kundapura in Karnataka. Remember, this happened in February. The charge sheet says that out of the 5 members named in the charge sheet, 2 are PFI members. The accused have been identified in the charge sheet as Rajab and Iftikhar. They were connected to the PFI. The charge sheet says that their intention was to assemble with deadly weapons and instigate religious feelings. Let me go across to Ananya, who has more details on this. So this becomes yet another case in the whole litany of crimes that the PFI and its members are alleged to have been involved in.
Well, yes, in fact, Zaka, this is the same charge sheet that was given out before the Karnataka High Court and also the Supreme Court. This was filed soon after these protests had broken out. However, it was kept, due to its sensitivity, it was kept into a lot of secrecy, but we have still managed to access some of the pages of this. In fact, the charge sheet has been filed by the Karnataka police. And what is very, very crucial to note is that on the basis of this particular charge sheet, the arguments were made by the Karnataka AG before the Karnataka High Court that the PFI and the CFI are actually involved into this particular case. And a very clear observation when the hijab verdict had come in from the Karnataka High Court, it was there that the Karnataka High Court, after considering all of these documents, had noted that the police investigation is at a very initial stage and there is a unclean hands behind this whole agitation that has happened in Karnataka. In fact, it had also said that it doesn't want to comment upon it at that moment of time. And remember that this is the same document that was also referred to by the Solicitor General and the Karnataka Advocate General before the Supreme Court of India of Justice Hemant Gupta and Justice Sudhanshu Dhulia. Though the court had refused to ask for the full copy of the charge sheet, it was satisfied with what the SG and the AG had told the Supreme Court. But they were ready to supply it. But this, what it basically says is that two things, that 2 of these people who have been named out of the 5 people were actually connected to the PFI, though the exact role of it is mentioned in the full charge sheet, which is kept for a secret notion of secrecy with the police. But what we have accessed is that it is said that the allegations that are there in the charge sheet is that there was an intention to incite religious feelings, and they were also armed with knives at that protest site, and the Karnataka police had then apprehended these people. So a big charge
Ananya,
coming
we'll leave
in.
that. Ananya Bhatnagar there with more details of this charge sheet, in which 2 out of the 5 accused are PFI members. Let me get a quick word in from Yasho Azad and Majid Haidari. So Yasho Azad, this is yet another case. I mean, this should be absolutely unsurprising that 2 out of the 5 members who initially instigated this whole hijab protest happen to be from the PFI. Yes, in fact, there were allegations then, and it has now been proved. And in fact, the links of the PFI are also there with the riots in Delhi. They have also been linked with funding many of the troubles which have taken place across the country. You know, Zaka, there's another point, and you know, I would urge people like Yasmin ji कि आपके ऐसे संभ्रांत मुस्लिमों को ये जो गतिविधियां हैं ऐसे PFI वगैरह की, उसको वाकई कंडेम करना चाहिए.
और जिस तरह की मुझे कोई हिचक नहीं है कि आरएसएस में अगर नरसिम्हानंद जी हों चाहे कोई भी नंद जी हों, उन्हें सीधा बंद करना चाहिए, बाहर ही नहीं देने आना चाहिए। जब तक कि नहीं मॉडरेट मुस्लिम्स की आवाज और बुलंद होगी, तब तक ये माहौल ऐसा ही रहेगा और हमें फैक्ट्स पर जाना चाहिए, emotions पर।
Okay, Majid Hydari, I'll, you know, to be fair, a lot of Muslim organizations, All India, Tanzeem Ulema Islam, Kul Hind Markazi Imam Council, Muslim Students Organization, they have all come out and said that the action taken against the PFI is consistent with the law. No one should be indulging in terrorism or radicalization. In the name of social work, you are poisoning young minds, you are into terror funding. So the point being that ultimately the people who suffer the most because of actions of organizations like the PFI are moderate Muslims of India.
Zaka Saab, I'll make 3 quick points in less than a minute. I hope you will give me that much of space.
Sure.
First, what VHP is to Hindi heartland, PFI is to South India. If PFI is bad, so is VHP. If VHP is good, so it's PFI. Either ban both or let both work. Second, PFI has been booked of terror funding banking transactions dating back to 2020. And our government in 2016 said that demonetization has ended terror funding and Hawala funding, blah, blah, blah. So either government was lying that time or NIA is lying this time. Now, third, the credibility of our elite investigative forces, the NIA, the ED, and the CBI, which have been domesticated by BJP. I'll tell you how. The NIA since 2014 has never touched anybody linked to BJP, VHP, ABBP, whatever, whoever has a separate link. They are in fact giving clean chits as has happened in Malegaon blast and other blasts. NIA, the CBI only today filed a petition before a court that Yashwant Shinde's petition that he knows about the saffron terror should not be taken cognizance of. And then Enforcement Directorate has conviction rate of less than 0.05%. And very recently, Jacqueline Fernandez said that they are siding with Nora Fatehi. So that is the kind of credibility these investigative agencies have since 2014.
Okay.
So why should we trust them? Very simple. This is witch hunt, typical witch hunt of one particular community.
No. Witch hunt or otherwise, all of these things can be argued in court. It boils down to one very, very simple fact. You cannot subvert the due process of law because you think you have some kind of street veto. That is unacceptable in a democracy, and I think that is the bottom line. You cannot damage public property and think that that will then send a chilling effect to the legal process. No, absolutely not. If the legal process has arrested you, they have to produce you in a court of law. They have to prove that you're guilty in a court of law. That doesn't mean you take the law into your own hands. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. I'm going to thank all our guests. We'll see how the story plays out for the PFI and whether or not this is actually laying the groundwork for a nationwide ban. We'll take a quick break. As we take that break, do not forget to vote for your favorite startup, the unicorn that you feel deserves to be the Indian of the Year startups. Just go to indianoftheyear.com and vote. And I'll see you in just a moment right on the